the surgeon, the syndicate, and the kidney black market. The Dr. Vijaya Rajakumari case. Imagine walking into a hospital believing you are about to save a loved one's life, but behind the sterile walls, signed documents, and smiling doctors, you may actually be entering a global black market worth millions. A market built on desperation, on poverty, on forged identities, and allegedly, on the hands of respected medical professionals. In July 2024, Indian authorities arrested senior transplant surgeon Dr. Vijaya Rajakumari after investigators uncovered what police described as a cross-border kidney trafficking syndicate involving Bangladeshi patients and donors. Authorities allege that approximately 15 illegal kidney transplant surgeries were performed between 2021 and 2023 using forged documents and fake family relationships. But this was not just about one doctor. Police claim there were brokers, assistants, document forgers, recruiters, and middlemen operating across India and Bangladesh. Poor donors were allegedly manipulated. Patients were flown across borders. Fake identities were created, and hospitals became the stage for one of the darkest underground industries in modern medicine. Tonight, we are diving deep into the shocking case of Dr. Vijaya Rajakumari, the illegal kidney trade, and the disturbing question that still haunts investigators. How many more surgeries slipped through unnoticed? Part 1. The World of Illegal Organ Trafficking. To understand this case, you first need to understand the brutal economics behind organ trafficking. Right now, around the world, thousands of people are waiting for kidney transplants. Many will die before finding a donor. That desperation creates demand. And wherever there is massive demand, criminal networks appear. Kidneys are especially valuable because humans can survive with only one. That makes impoverished individuals vulnerable targets for traffickers promising fast money. India has long struggled with illegal organ trafficking cases. The country also has a massive medical tourism industry, attracting patients from neighboring nations seeking cheaper treatment. Experts say that combination can create loopholes that criminal syndicates exploit. Under India's Transplantation of Human Organs Act of 1994, kidney donations are generally only allowed between close relatives unless special authorization is granted. The law was specifically designed to prevent the commercial sale of organs. But investigators say traffickers learn how to bypass the system. According to police and experts, syndicates allegedly forge documents to make unrelated donors appear to be family members of recipients. Fake IDs, fabricated family trees, and falsified affidavits are reportedly used to fool authorization committees. And that is where this story becomes terrifying. Because illegal organ trafficking does not operate in dark alleyways. It often operates in legitimate hospitals, with licensed surgeons, real operating rooms, and paperwork that appears completely authentic. Experts investigating international organ trafficking say the system often depends on a chain of participants: brokers recruiting donors, middlemen arranging travel, document forgers creating fake identities, and medical professionals willing to perform the procedures. Authorities claim the Rajakumari case followed this exact pattern. Part 2. Who is Dr. Vijaya Rajakumari? Before the arrest, Dr. Vijaya Rajakumari was reportedly known as an experienced transplant surgeon associated with hospitals in Delhi. According to investigators, she worked as a visiting consultant connected to multiple medical institutions. To the outside world, she appeared to be a respected medical professional. That is why the allegations shocked so many people. Because surgeons occupy a unique place in society. They are trusted with human life itself. Transplant surgeons carry even greater responsibility. Every transplant involves ethics committees, donor verification, medical reviews, and strict legal oversight. The process is supposed to protect vulnerable people from exploitation. But police allege that between 2021 and 2023, Dr. Rajakumari performed around 15 illegal kidney transplant surgeries involving Bangladeshi patients and donors. Authorities claim the surgeries were conducted using forged documents designed to falsely portray donors and recipients as relatives. And according to investigators, the operation may have involved a sophisticated international network. The case began gaining attention after Delhi police reportedly received intelligence about a well-organized syndicate involved in illegal kidney transplants. Investigators launched raids and arrested several suspects connected to the operation. Among those arrested were alleged brokers from Bangladesh and India. Police claimed the syndicate specifically targeted kidney patients in Bangladesh. Investigators alleged that recruiters would identify desperate patients requiring transplants and then locate financially vulnerable donors willing to sell a kidney. Both parties would then allegedly be transported into India for surgery. And according to authorities, the network had a disturbing method for maintaining control. Police alleged that after arriving in India, some patients had their passports confiscated by members of the syndicate. Think about that. You are in a foreign country. You need a life-saving surgery. You do not know the legal system. And the people arranging your transplant now control your identity documents. That creates enormous vulnerability, and investigators say the operation extended far beyond just arranging surgeries. Part 3. Alleged Network. Police alleged that this was not the work of one rogue doctor acting alone. Instead, authorities describe a coordinated criminal structure involving multiple individuals with specialized roles. According to Delhi police, brokers allegedly recruited patients and donors from Bangladesh. Middlemen reportedly handled logistics. Document specialists allegedly forged paperwork to fabricate family relationships between donors and recipients. And assistants allegedly helped process patient files and medical documentation. Investigators named several suspects connected to the case, including alleged kingpins and facilitators operating across borders. Police also alleged that one assistant connected to Dr. Vijaya Rajakumari helped prepare affidavits and patient documentation, while another intermediary reportedly coordinated medical appointments and tests. The scale of coordination raised major questions. How many people knew? How many institutions were involved? And how could allegedly forged documents repeatedly pass official scrutiny? One investigator later stated that authorization boards may have approved cases because they could not detect fake documentation. That detail is critically important, because the entire legal transplant system depends on paperwork being legitimate. If forged identities become sophisticated enough, the safeguards collapse. Experts say this is exactly why international organ trafficking remains so difficult to stop. Criminal groups exploit bureaucracy, poverty, and medical desperation all at once, and the profits can be enormous. According to investigators in similar organ trafficking cases, illegal transplant operations can generate massive payments from wealthy recipients, while vulnerable donors receive only a fraction of the money promised. In many cases, donors are allegedly misled about risks or underpaid after surgery. Some later suffer lifelong health complications. Others disappear from public view entirely, and because the operations cross international borders, investigations become incredibly complex. Different countries, different legal systems, different identities, all connected through a black market organ pipeline. If you are finding this case as disturbing as I am, hit the like button and subscribe. This channel covers real-life criminal investigations, corruption cases, unsolved mysteries, and the dark systems hiding beneath everyday society. And trust me, this story gets even deeper, because investigators say this case may reveal a much bigger problem inside the global transplant industry itself. Part 4. The Human Cost. Whenever we discuss organ trafficking, it is easy to focus on the arrests, the money, and the headlines. But the real tragedy is the human cost. Behind every illegal transplant is usually someone desperate, a patient terrified of dying, or a donor crushed by poverty. Experts investigating organ trafficking say many donors come from financially vulnerable backgrounds. Some are promised life-changing payments. Others allegedly agree because they see no other escape from debt, unemployment, or economic collapse. In Bangladesh and other South Asian regions, poverty can make individuals especially vulnerable to recruiters offering quick money for a kidney. Investigators allege that syndicates specifically target those vulnerabilities, and once donors agree, many reportedly lose control over the process. Some victims in broader trafficking investigations have claimed they received less money than promised. Others later experience medical complications without proper aftercare. Think about the psychological trauma involved. Selling part of your own body because you feel you have no other option. Then realizing you may have been manipulated by an organized criminal network. Meanwhile, recipients are also placed in danger. Illegal transplant operations may bypass proper screening procedures. Fake documents can hide medical incompatibilities or infectious disease risks. When profit becomes the priority, patient safety can disappear. And that is why organ trafficking is considered not just illegal, but a form of human exploitation. Some governments and international agencies classify commercial organ trade alongside human trafficking offenses because vulnerable individuals are effectively being commodified. The Rajakumari case became especially alarming because authorities alleged it involved repeated surgeries over multiple years. Not a one-time incident, not an isolated mistake, but allegedly a sustained operation. And according to investigators, the Syndicate's methods reveal how adaptable these networks have become. Part 5. The Forged Identities. One of the most chilling parts of this case is how ordinary the paperwork may have appeared. According to investigators, fake family relationships were allegedly created using forged documents. Why? Because Indian transplant law restricts organ donations primarily to close relatives unless special approval is granted. So traffickers allegedly manufactured relatives out of strangers. Experts say syndicates can fabricate IDs, notarize documents, and family certificates with alarming sophistication. Imagine an authorization committee reviewing stacks of documents that appear legitimate: birth certificates, identity cards, signed affidavits, photos. Everything looks normal, but investigators claim the entire relationship is fake. That raises a terrifying possibility. How many illegal transplants worldwide are hidden behind paperwork that nobody questions? This is not just an India problem. International investigators have uncovered organ trafficking operations linked to Cambodia, Iran, Pakistan, Myanmar, Nepal, and other countries, and many follow similar patterns. Recruit vulnerable donors. Move patients across borders. Forge relationships. Use legal hospitals. Hide behind bureaucracy. In some investigations, traffickers even allegedly coached donors and recipients on how to answer questions during approval interviews. That means oversight systems may only work if officials already suspect fraud. Otherwise, the deception can appear completely legitimate, and when experienced medical professionals are allegedly involved, the illusion becomes even stronger. Because people trust doctors, hospitals trust surgeons, patients trust the system. That trust is exactly what makes these cases so disturbing. Part 6. The Global Organ Trade. The Rajakumari investigation also exposed a broader international reality. The illegal organ trade is global. According to experts, organ trafficking networks operate across borders because wealthy recipients are often willing to travel anywhere for a transplant. This creates what some investigators describe as transplant tourism. Patients travel internationally seeking organs faster than they could legally obtain them at home, and criminal syndicates step in to supply those organs. Over the years, authorities have uncovered trafficking cases linked to India, Pakistan, Iran, Cambodia, Nepal, and several African and Southeast Asian nations. Some operations allegedly involve social media recruitment. Others rely on debt traps, and many exploit migrant populations or refugees. One of the most alarming aspects is how adaptable these networks are. When one route becomes risky, traffickers simply move operations elsewhere. Different country, different hospital, same business model. Experts warn that enforcement efforts often struggle because demand for organs continues to grow worldwide. And unlike drugs or weapons, organ trafficking hides behind legitimate medicine. A kidney transplant itself is a real medical procedure. The operating room is real. The surgeons are licensed. The hospital may even be accredited. That legal appearance creates a gray zone where criminal activity can blend into ordinary healthcare. And that may be why these cases are so difficult to fully eradicate. Part 7. The Arrests and Aftermath. In July 2024, Delhi police arrested Dr. Vijaya Rajakumari, along with several alleged associates connected to the syndicate. Authorities accused the network of arranging illegal kidney transplants involving Bangladeshi patients and donors using forged documents. The arrests triggered national headlines and renewed scrutiny of India's transplant oversight system. Investigators began examining how the surgeries were approved, whether hospitals failed to detect fraudulent paperwork, and whether additional illegal procedures occurred beyond those already identified. Meanwhile, the case also intensified debates around medical ethics and accountability, because whenever a doctor is accused of participating in organized exploitation, public trust in healthcare suffers. At the same time, experts warned against assuming every transplant professional is involved in wrongdoing. Many doctors and hospitals operate ethically and save countless lives through legal organ donation systems. But cases like this expose vulnerabilities that criminal groups can exploit, and those vulnerabilities may exist far beyond one country. The investigation remains deeply significant because it highlighted how poverty, bureaucracy, corruption, and medical desperation can intersect in horrifying ways. A desperate patient, a vulnerable donor, a forged identity, a surgeon, an operating table, and somewhere in between, a criminal industry worth millions. A case of Dr. Vijaya Rajakumari is more than just another criminal investigation. It is a window into one of the darkest underground economies in the world, an economy where human organs become commodities, where desperation becomes profit, and where the line between healing and exploitation can allegedly disappear. Authorities say the syndicate exploited loopholes in transplant regulations, forged identities, and vulnerable people searching for survival. But perhaps the most disturbing part is this. Illegal organ trafficking does not require abandoned warehouses or secret underground labs. Sometimes, it happens inside modern hospitals, under fluorescent lights, with legal paperwork, performed by people society is trained to trust. And that raises the question no one can comfortably answer. If investigators had not uncovered this network, how many more surgeries would have happened? What do you think? Do cases like this reveal isolated corruption, or a much larger hidden global system? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more deep investigations into real criminal networks, unsolved mysteries, corruption scandals, and disturbing true stories from around the world, subscribe and turn on notifications, because sometimes the most terrifying crimes are not committed in the shadows. They happen in places we trust the most.